Good afternoon. It's great to be here and great to see you. We've been thinking and planning and looking at this for months, as Rob said, and there's about 250 of us in this room, and it's pretty exciting. And as Rob said, our goal is to help businesses be more influential in our community and really raise the bar of integrity, character, ethics. I live in Boca Raton. If you want to know a place that has the lowest ethical bar in business, come to Boca Raton. It's not hard to kind of be above the bar. We're trying to raise that bar, and it's amazing. We have about 500 people who are Bar to Boca lead that are interested in raising that bar. And I'd like to see that happening throughout South Florida, where we are people of integrity working throughout the business community. The Bible says that our welfare is based in the welfare of the city. And so many times we don't care about the welfare of the city, but this person that's standing before you does care about it. Our family is from South Florida. I was born a block from here in Holy Cross. I went to school in Pompano. I live in Boca, and I love this place tremendously, and we're going to have fun. Today we're going to talk about the heart of the leader, but before we do, I want to ask a question. Every one of you in this room fit in one of four categories, so you have to raise your hand once in one of these four, okay? You cannot raise your hand, you have to, okay? This is participation. I want to talk about the hurricane for a moment and the four groups of people in the hurricane. Number one, people who never lost power. I want you to raise your hand. Can you boo them? Okay, raise your hand. You never lost power. Okay. Wow. Okay, second group. Those of you who either have a home or live in a building that has one of those enormous generators that when the electricity goes off, it automatically chugs on, and you're only without a little bit, but you have a built-in generator somewhere in your building or your home, and you were okay. Raise your hand. Wow, just a couple of you. There you go. Okay. Third group, those of you that had neither of those, but had the small generator. The one where you ran the cords all over the place, and you could run a couple of paddle fans in that 92 degrees that next day, you remember that? And maybe run your fridge. You raise your hand. There you go, okay. Fourth group is you had nothing. Raise your hand. Okay, raise your hand. Those of you who are in the first group, I want you to look at these people, okay? Here's why. Put your hands down. And here's the serious part. All of us live in the first group. I travel all over the world. I'm in 100 countries. We work in 40 countries with an organization called World Lead, which does what we do here at a much greater level. We help about 125 nonprofit organizations around the world. I travel all over, so I'm in all these forsaken places around the world. And nobody has what the first group had. You and I live in a different world than everyone else lives in. I want you to know that. Here was interesting. At our work, we have about 80 or let's say 100 people that work for us between our school and church, and all of them were in the four groups. The people who were in the first group came to work on time, looking good. They had gasoline at their gas stations. Their Publix actually had food in it. Our four Publixes in East Boca had nothing but processed foods. Nothing else. The fridges were all out. They had a little generator. So they came as if nothing had happened. And they were walking around going, where is everybody? What does it take? The second group, the same thing. The third group, or the groups that had the generators, that's me. It would take me 3 hours to get to work. I live a mile from where I work. 3 hours. I had to get gas. I had to find certain things. I had to go to the store because everything was spoiling every single day. And I'd come to work. I'd start about 6. I'd get there at 9, those 4 or 5 days we were out of power. And these others are just going like, where have you been? And what are you doing? Why do you smell different than we smell? And then the fourth group would come. They were disheveled, and But you know, it's interesting, we all work together. The only place in this world where those four groups economically get together is at the workplace. At your workplace, you have all four of those types of people. You have those who are poor, you have those who are lower middle class, you have those who are upper class, you have those who are above it all that work in your place. And I would say if you walk away from anything from this storm, and I'll mention one other thing later, have a little compassion on people. Yes, we have instant help. We're sending money to Key West. We're sending money to Puerto Rico. We're sending money to Mexico City. We've sent goods to Houston. Yes, that's good. But a little compassion for people in our area would go a long way. Because I got to tell you, if you are in this room right now, you live in the first world. You live in that first group. Show some compassion to some other people. And anyway, that's my takeaway. Everybody said, what did you learn? The other thing is, one quick religious statement. I'm not going to talk religion here, but people go, why do we have hurricanes here in Florida? You're a pastor. Why does God allow hurricanes in Florida? Can I answer that for you? It's not very biblical, but I'm going to give you the true answer. Before you were here, there were hurricanes in Florida. The question is more like, why do you live in a place where there are so many hurricanes? The Tequesta Indians came to South Florida 800 years ago. There were hurricanes before they came. The Miccosukes came 200 years ago. There were hurricanes before them. The Seminoles came about 140 years ago. There were hurricanes before them. You came 15 years ago, and there were hurricanes before you came. And you know what? If you stay here again, there'll be hurricanes. But here's what you cannot do. You cannot say, and this is what we all wanted to say, we dodged a bullet. Can I just say, you didn't dodge a bullet. That hurricane you didn't dodge a bullet. It hit someone else. Just so you know, it didn't hit us, but it hit Barbuda and Dominica and the Dominican Republic, north end of Haiti as well. And it hit Marco Island, et cetera, in North Cuba, where I've been, spent time there. It hit there. They didn't dodge that bullet. So be careful when we go, oh, we dodged the bullet. The bullet was still shot. The hurricanes still occur, but they happen. That's for another day. So now, what are we going to talk about today? You have a piece of paper there. I love taking notes. You got pens there. Take the pen with you afterwards. You don't remember what you don't write down. I mean, that's a very simple thing. And I want to start out with a little illustration. I have up here, and I know it's hard to see, about 16 or 18 little things here. Does anybody know what these are? Just skewers. No, they're not skewers for a hibachi. What else? Acupuncture. No, I would not want to get... That's just a little big for me. What else? Needlepoint. No, but it looks like needlepoint. What else? Somebody said it over here. They're spokes for a bicycle. These are spokes for a bicycle. How many of you see those packs of cyclists out on A1A and you're upset at the way they ride? Have you ever seen them? Right? Okay, well, I'm one of them, although I'm in the slower group. I got to just tell you, the bike riders today, bicyclists, spend way too much money on their bikes. Can I just say that? It costs more to tune a bike than a car, just so you know that. And these bicycles these guys and ladies ride, not that I ride a regular bike, they're like $10,000 and $12,000. You don't realize it. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can lift it with your pinky. They're just unbelievable bikes. But any biker will tell you the most important part of a bicycle, the spokes. Now this spoke costs 20 cents. So I have about $3, $4 worth of a $12,000 bike in my hands. And it's the most important part. Why? Because as they're traveling and they go over the bridge at the port and they go over these things and they come down them going 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, these things all have to be working together. 16 to 28 of them. If one of these pops, I mean, look, I could bend it right now. These pop. They go pop. And then all of a sudden, what happens is the wheel starts to wobble. If you ever ridden a bike that has a wobbly wheel, it's because your spoke is bad, or many spokes. It starts wobbling, and you will then go only half the speed you were once going when they were all working. If 2 spokes go, 2 out of 28 go, the bike is immobile. Immobile. You know what immobile means? It stops. Why? Because these wheels are going 90 times revolutions a minute through a little fork called a brake. And when a spoke goes, it wobbles, so 90 times it hits this side and wobbles and hits it 90 times in 60 seconds. Well, that's going to slow you down, isn't it? Just the friction. You lose 2 and it's going like this. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it immobilizes you, or you may go 3 or 4 miles an hour. You got to get off your bike, and there's nothing you can do out on the road. You got to take it to a shop, get it fixed, and you go all for a 20 or 30 cent spoke on a $12,000 bike. Everybody spends money on their Shimano and their all these things, the Campanella stuff, and they spend these, they show me it. You know, I have my little $800 bike that I've had for 12 years, and they show me all their fancy things, but ultimately it is this. And I believe in our lives, we spend way too much money, too much time, too much energy on the outward things of our life, and not enough time on the important things of our life that allow us to move forward. And today I want to look at 5 spokes in our lives. There's far more than that, and I've called the talk The Heart of the Leader. This is the heart. This is the inside. This is not the suit I'm wearing, the house I own, the car I drive, the education I have, the money I have in the bank. That's all good, and that's all important. But without the internal side, you will be immobilized as a person, as a human being, as a worker. Now we're here applying this in the workplace. This also applies at home. It also applies in your nonprofit work. Those of you who coach, work at nonprofits. I see a lot of nonprofits here. A lot of you are on boards of them. It works there too. So before I do that, I want you to write 4 things down. Will you do this? It's not on your paper, so this is extra. We talk about leadership, and I'm going to talk about one area of leadership, the leadership internally, in a moment. 4 things about leadership you need to know. 4 types of leadership. Number 1, just write it anywhere, the leadership of yourself. Leadership of yourself. We are all adults here. You need to know how to lead yourself. Every person does. Single mother with a daughter needs to know to lead themselves. The president and CEO, the branch manager of a bank, you need to know how to lead yourself. That's number 1, and we'll talk about that today. Number 2 is leading someone else, one other person. All of us have the opportunity to lead. That might be a person in the cubicle next to you. That might be a direct report. In families, that's mothers to children, fathers to children, husband and wife to each other, etc. Learning to lead with each other, one-on-one. The third area is leading a team. How do you lead a team? That book that was just given away, The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, is about leading a team. It's real easy. That's what he spends all his writing about. 5 Dysfunction of a Team, all those great books he writes. It's about a team. The 4th, though, is the area of leading an organization, a branch, whatever it might be, a division. I don't know how your business is divided up, but leading a larger group. Everybody has to know how to do the first 2. Most of you in this room need to know the 3rd one, which is team, and many of you the 4th. So here at Lauderdale Lead, we spend most of our time on learning to lead ourselves and occasionally learning to lead others and a team. But most it's about learning to lead ourselves, because I believe if we can learn to lead ourselves, we'll be able to lead other people. So can we do that today? 5 areas in developing your heart, your internal side of leadership. And none of these cost money. See, that's the beautiful thing. I'm not telling you got to go get educated over here, you got to go do that. You got to spend 20 cents to make it work. Number 1, And I put them in the form of a question. They're on your sheet. Are you passionate about what you do? Are you passionate? Do you have a passion for what you do? This is hugely important in your workplace. Do you really like doing what you do? We are adults. You will eat tonight if you don't work at the place you work today. I want you all to put your hands up like this. You don't have to put them real high. It's not a Pentecostal thing today, just this. I'm in a Presbyterian church, forbid me, I'm sorry. I'll keep my hands low, okay, like this. Left hand is 0, right hand is 100. Left hand 0, right hand 100. Now you may not want to do this in front of whoever's sitting next to you, especially if it's your boss or your employee next to you, but at some point or another, this is your passion for your work, from 0 to 100. Are you 50% passionate about what you do, 25% passionate, 75% passionate? Where are you? You've got to answer that question. Because if you come up and go, I really don't like what I do, can I just tell you, I'm going to tell you straight here, go do something else. If you don't like what you do, go find something that you are truly passionate about. We live in America. This is a great country. Go find something that you have a passion for and go do it. And let me just say, it'll never be 100% because there's always things you have to do in your work that you don't like doing. I mean, it just is. I don't care what it is. But if you're at 70, 75%, 3/4 or above, you're in the right place. It's a self-evaluation that you have to take. Because if you're going, I just don't really have a passion for this, I'm way over here, well then start thinking through, how can you have a heart for people in this, what you're doing, a heart for your business? Go find something you can do. There are so many people that could help you move forward in that, and why waste? If I can tell you the truth, we have some young adults in here that helped us. Weren't they great at the front? The Westminster Academy group, thank you, young adults. This is scary. You're going to work 100,000 hours in your life if you live to be as old as I am or older. 100,000 hours. You might as well enjoy what you do, right? I mean, I don't want to discourage you, but it's 100,000 hours. Those of you who are a little lazy, 80,000. It's 100,000 hours. Do what you've been gifted to do. We talk about this, and we'll be talking about this later in the fall. But that's number one. Number two, are you a listener and a learner? A listener and a learner. And a secondary question to that right under it, are you a reader? Listener and learner. We who are at work, those of us in this room, I know you because I walked around and did it, are great talkers. You're great. I walked around and talked to probably half of you already. I hope to meet the rest of you afterwards. Maybe I can't, you'll run off, that's okay. You're great talkers. The question is, are you a great listener? If you really want to develop your business, your life, and the heart of what you do, listen. There is so much richness in this world, but we are so loud about who we are and what we do and what we want to be and all these things that we don't listen. You need to listen. And the sister to listening is learning. Let me just say these words. Most of you in this room are hired for some expertise. You're doing something right, and you're hired for this expertise. So we get the opinion that we're the smartest person in that area. And let me just tell you, if you have to be the smartest person in the room, it's going to be a very small room. The room gets smaller and smaller. What you need to do is surround yourself with people who are smarter, stronger, know more, been down the block a little further than you, and listen and learn from them. And if you do, it'll be an incredible richness to you. And guess what? It doesn't cost anything. It might cost a cup of coffee at Starbucks, would you go with me, Tom, and just share a few things about what you've learned about such and such? Would you go with me, brother and sister, and teach? And you know what? They will. And it cost me $8. And I'm going to get a great lesson. And with that is reading. And now, I'm not talking about reading books, although I want you to know you should be reading books. And I do. I'm a huge fan of reading. But I'm talking about reading people, reading events, reading trends, reading where we're heading. And are you learning how to really read? Because most of us stop at some point in our learning curve. That could be when we're 18, it could be when we're 21, it could be when we're 28, and then we stop learning and we just repeat everything for the following years. And we're no longer learning. Oh, but you learned how to use an Apple computer and a smartphone. Yeah, that's good. But really, are you really learning and moving forward with this? And my suggestion is, be a lifelong learner. We have educators in this room, and lifelong learning may be going back to school, going to night school. I'm not talking about that. Yes, there's a place for that. I did that myself, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning from other people, learning in the workplace, moving forward in that. Are you a listener, a learner, and a reader? Number 3, and now I'm going to meddle a little, if that's okay. Are you a truth teller? Are you a truth teller? Are you authentic? Truth telling. Can I just tell you in business, if I can just be very honest for a minute, tell the truth, is that the truth comes out in the end. The truth does come out in the end. Why do we have lawsuits in this? Mostly because people didn't tell the truth at the beginning and now the truth's coming out in the end. The truth comes out in the end. I come out of the real estate business. I have 25 years a realtor, commercial, residential, and running businesses. And I'd have agents, and they would lie, and then they would think they would never get caught. If any of you are realtors, can I just tell you, tell the truth at the beginning, because it's going to come out with inspections, appraisals, title reports, etc. I mean, it just comes out. The truth always comes out. And it may come out a year from now, it may come out 6 months from now, it may come out down the road, but it does come out. So why don't you just be a person who tells the truth? Because if you tell the truth, my business men and women in this room, you will be a cut above about 75% of your competitors. How many contractors have you had and you go, they didn't tell me the truth? How many, you just named the industry. They didn't tell me the truth. You be a truth teller from day one, minute one, and trust builds incredibly. Now, I use the word authentic. I want you to write next to it transparency. Transparent. There's a huge difference between being transparent and being authentic with your truth telling. Transparent is going into the ice cream store or the gelato store, and you see the glass case there, and there is, I like mocha chip and I like mango gelato, okay, and I like to mix the two. Well, when you walk into there, you have a glass case between you and the gelato or ice cream, and you can't, it's there, it's transparent, you see it. Yeah, there is mango over there, but I haven't tasted it, I haven't touched it, I don't know what it's like. Is it fresh, is it not fresh? All those things, I have no idea. And if the person on the other end just says, well, I'm transparent, here it is, that is not good. It's good, because people go, oh, I'm transparent. No, be authentic. What is authentic? Authentic is when the person behind takes that little spoon and goes, what would you like? Mocha chip? And grabs a little mocha chip and hands it to you. And now you've tasted it, you've touched it, you've smelled it. Is this what you really want? I have now interacted with the mocha chip to know whether it is truly authentic or not and what I want. And really that's, as business people, we need to be authentic with people. That means you got to get in and touch them. I don't mean physically touch them, but really embrace and understand who they are and develop that, and not just be transparent or not just be honest. Honest is good, but actually be authentic. That's really an authentic person there. That banker, I really like because such and such, and I get to know her, I get to know him. Name your industry. You know the inauthentic ones and you know the authentic ones. And I would suggest be a truth teller. Number 4, real quick. Personal accountability. Are you personally accountable? And if I could tell you one statement, people say, tell me what leadership is. Can I give you that one statement? Leading is facing reality. If you want to be a great leader, you've got to face reality. How many of us like to avoid reality in our business, right? Had a bad quarter, let's avoid it, let's move on. Had a bad month, let's move on. We avoid it, right? Face reality and then define it and then do something about it. That's what personal accountability is when it comes, you're already telling the truth, you're already getting to know people, your clients, your customers, but you need to face reality. Let me just tell you, there's a lot of people in the service industry that I met in here. Your best customer may be your competitor. Do you know that? If your competitor can trust you and you're authentic with them, they're going to bring you business. There were several years when I made more money from other companies' agents than I did from my own business because they trusted me, they knew, they go, I trust you more than I trust my own people. That's personal accountability. And if we are personally accountable, there's so much you can do and your reputation moves ahead of you. And that's important. Finally, and this is huge, are you humble? You go, what is that about? That kind of came out of left field. Are you humble? Shared gratitude. Nobody likes a know-it-all, and nobody likes a person who takes all the credit. And can I just tell you, none of us do it all on our own. Can I just say that? Not one of us are here, not one of us are successful, not one of us can say, I did it my way, excluding Frank Sinatra. You can't. It takes people around you, it takes people who preceded you, it takes people all over that have helped you. How many of you remember an elementary school teacher? Does anybody remember one of your elementary school teachers? Did they have an effect on you? Of course they did. They haven't been around your life in 30 years, 20 years, and yet they do. Shared gratitude. I have a ring. I have 2 rings, wedding ring, and I have another ring that in Hebrew, I have on here the words that are my motto, which is walk humbly. Comes out of the Bible, Micah 6 verse 8. But it's to walk humbly because I believe that everything I do is because of other people. And if we go around thanking other people, showing gratitude to other people, being helpful for other people, it is going to come back in waves and waves. How many of you, the more you give, God just, and I'm not talking financial, this is not about money, but the more you give in service, the more you give in whatever it is that you're generous with, you get more out of it, don't you? I got to tell you, if that weren't the case, you wouldn't have kids. I'm sending my 5th kid to college next year. I mean, it's unbelievable. One of them went to law school, and it's like, these people are expensive. What? But there's a reason because I'm getting more than I'm giving out. Because it's not about the money. It is not about the money. If it's only about the money, don't come to Lauderdale Lead. It is far deeper, and you can have an influence on somebody. So let me close with this. I went to school at a blue-collar, kind of middle-class school here in Broward County, high school, and I played basketball. And I'm tall, my kids play basketball, we're a basketball family, we love basketball. And I played basketball, and I was fairly good, not an All-American, but I was good. And one day we were playing and we were winning, and the coach said, I want to take you out of the game. And I was 17 years old. And it was interesting, our coach had a no-cut policy back then, and so there was a kid on our team who was short and fat, And if I could say this, and I say this, he was abjectly poor. He was Pompano Beach poor. Back then, there were houses that had dirt. I don't know if you knew that, but in the 70s, I mean, there was dirt floors and houses in Pompano, and he lived in one of those. He was just as poor as they came. His dad was a journeyman. They moved from town to town, but he wanted to be on the team, never played, practiced with us. And the coach said, Bill, I'm going to put him in the game because we're going to win the game whether you're in it or not. We're so far ahead. I said, great, I'll sit down. He looked at me, he said, Bill, he can't wear the shoes he's wearing. Will you give him your shoes? And I thought for a moment, I'm 17 years old, and I thought, they're smelly. And I realized I'd have to put his shoes on because you got to wear shoes when you're on the sidelines. So I'd have to put his shoes on. And then it came to me, I'd have to put his socks on. And I thought, I got to put his shoes and socks on. He's going to put my shoes and socks on. And in a split second, I said, yes. Yes. So I took off unlaced. He put his, we traded. He went in, played terrible, but he had the time of his life. Came back, we swapped shoes again, and I was a little nervous. I never remembered it after that. I forgot about it until a couple of years ago. I was up in Atlanta, outside Atlanta, Lake Lanier, at an executive retreat center with 6 other couples, and we were there, and one couple was sponsoring this thing. It was real high-end. It was fantastic. And there were several other little mini business retreats going on, and we were there in our little mini business retreat. And the head of the whole center, he was like the executive chef, and it was real high-end stuff. He walks up to me, handsome, sculpted, well-dressed, puts his hand out and says, "You're Bill Mitchell." I said, "Yes." He goes, "I'm the guy you gave the shoes to." And my wife's right here. And he goes, "And it changed my life." I'm thinking, it changed his life. How? So I said, "How?" He goes, "It was the first act of kindness anyone had ever done for me. And it gave me hope." And we chatted, and I think he had gone to the Culinary School of New York, this guy was fantastic. And so we had a great time and talked. And then here's the point of this. The point is this: how many times does a moral impulse come in front of you and you let it go? Just let it go. If I had not done anything, I would have never remembered that. "Hey, Bill, will you give your shoes away?" "No, I'm not interested." "Okay," and then he moves on, right? The kid won't play. He had holes in his shoes. He won't play. I wouldn't have even remembered that. I believe each of us have moral impulses that are given to us every single day. You don't even have to ask for them. I think what you got to ask for is to recognize them. And you can change lives in this world. You may not put a cancer ward on Holy Cross. You don't have that much money, maybe. And you may not be able to support such and such to a full extent. But you and I can change lives. If we are living knowing it. And when the time comes, yesterday I was sharing with a guy, and I'll close with this. Young guy, he went to WA, by the way, Westminster Academy here. He owns a business, got about 250, no, that's not right, about 400 employees. And so I was talking to him about some business things yesterday and giving him some one-on-one. We're doing some, and he says these words. He goes, because he's heard me tell this story, he goes, when he was 17, he was interning at a bank. And he got in an elevator, and a lady stood there and said, "Hi." And he said these words. He said, "Thank God it's Friday." And the lady said to him, "You're just, excuse my English here, you're pissing your life away, thinking only of Friday." And he said it changed his life. It changed his life. He said, no more of that. Now he's an owner of a business that he started from scratch and doing his thing and doing great things. And yesterday when I was talking, he was talking about all the money he had raised within his business to help Key West, help Puerto Rico, help Houston, et cetera, because of a lady who spent 15 seconds with him when he was 17 years old. He's 45 now. 15 seconds. Take those opportunities because you can change people's lives. But if they look at you as dishonest, they look at you as very unpassionate about what you do, if they look at you as not a truth teller, they look at you as a know-it-all, it's not going to happen. But I believe God gives it to us, these moral impulses. Take them and run with them. Thank you.